This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Monday, May 31st. Welcome to Africa 54. We continue to work remotely because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but what hasn't changed is our commitment to bringing you the latest and most important news from the African continent and around the world. This is today's Africa 54. We begin in Nigeria, where an armed gang abducted students from an Islamic school in the north-central state of Niger on Sunday, according to police and state government officials. A spokesman for Niger State Police said in a statement that gunmen on motorcycles attacked the town of Tegina in the Rafi local government area of the state at around 3 p.m. on Sunday. He said the attackers were shooting indiscriminately and abducted a yet-to-be ascertained number of children at Salihu Tanko Islamic School. The West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, on Sunday suspended Mali's membership in response to last week's coup and said authorities must stick to a timetable for a return to democracy. However, it did not announce sanctions like those it imposed after the coup last August, which saw members temporarily close their borders with landlocked Mali and halt financial transactions. It also did not call for new interim president Assimi Goïta to step down. Leaders of the 15-member Economic Community of West African States held an emergency summit in Ghana's capital, Accra, to agree on a response to the Malian military's ouster of a president and prime minister for the second time in 9 months. In a statement, ECOWAS said Mali's membership in the bloc was suspended with immediate effect. The army colonel who led the August coup and last week's revolt was declared president on Friday. ECOWAS said a new civilian prime minister should be nominated and a new inclusive government formed to proceed with the transition program. There was no immediate response from Goïta, who attended the summit. A Zambian court on Friday jailed a former cabinet minister, Emerine Kabanshi, for 2 years in a corruption case that had prompted some Western donors to freeze aid to the Southern African nation. Britain, Finland, Ireland, and Sweden withheld nearly $34 million in aid to Zambia's social welfare and education sectors in 2018 because of concern over financial mismanagement. Following the aid freeze, President Edgar Lungu fired the then Community Development and Social Welfare Minister who was in charge of the funds. The magistrate said Kabanshi willfully failed to follow procedures relating to the engagement of a state-owned company which distributed social welfare funding for the poor. Saudi Arabia is requiring all pilgrims for the scaled-back annual Hajj in July to be vaccinated against COVID-19. In Tanzania, where vaccinations have not begun, Muslims hoping to go to Mecca are urging authorities to start vaccinating. Charles Kambe reports from Dar es Salaam.
Omar Abubakari, like many other Muslims in Tanzania, wants to make the pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. It's an integral part of the Muslim faith, but for now, only those immunized against COVID-19 can take part in this year's Hajj. Abubakari is worried because vaccinations in Tanzania have yet to be approved.
The time remaining is limited, but still, we haven't given up. We expect our top leaders to check on the issue of vaccination carefully, so as we can accomplish this holy worship. We failed to go last year because of this disaster, and if it continues till next year, it means our worship has ended. To us, this is the main pillar of our religion.
Until earlier this year, Tanzanian authorities had rejected COVID-19 vaccines. Then President John Magufuli instead promoted false remedies for the disease. Soon after Magufuli's death in March, his successor, Samia Hassan, formed a COVID-19 task force to advise her government on handling the infections. In their report 2 weeks ago, the committee declared the vaccines to be effective and recommended that travelers going abroad be among those to get their shots first.
The committee advises the government using its institutions continues and moves to allow free vaccines using vaccine brands listed by the World Health Organization because the shots are effective and safe since they are scientifically proved.
Last week, President Hassan said the government is checking to see if COVID-19 vaccines that are available in other countries can be ordered for Tanzanians. But with no vaccination campaign in sight, Muslim leaders see the chances of Tanzanians attending this year's pilgrimage to be low at best.
I cannot say that we can't accomplish Hajj worship, but the percentages seem to be very low to accomplish the worship this year. The remaining percentages only Allah will decide, because even if we get vaccinated, as our leaders are struggling to accomplish, still, time is a challenge.
Meanwhile, COVID-19 has not stopped Tanzanians like Abu Bakari from continuing to worship in mosques. But for now, his plan to join his fellow Muslims in Mecca for Hajj prayers remains up in the air. Charles Kombe for VOA News in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
South Africa has extended its nightly curfew and limited the number of people at gatherings to slow the spread of COVID-19 as positive cases surge. President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the extension on Sunday in a televised address to the nation. The Level 2 lockdown restrictions will start on Monday, forcing non-essential establishments like restaurants and bars and fitness centers to close by 8 p.m. local time, as the curfew will now start at 11 p.m. instead of midnight and end at 4 a.m. In East Africa, Kenya has also extended its nightly curfew by 60 days to slow the spread of COVID-19, according to the Interior Ministry. The move followed a decision by President Uhuru Kenyatta in late March to extend the 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. curfew. A ban on political gatherings and processions that could turn into super spreader events was also extended for 60 days. The ban on public gatherings and processions and overnight meetings will stay in force, according to the Interior Ministry. Zamalek is the king of African club basketball, winning the inaugural Basketball African League trophy in Kigali Sunday. The Egyptian club beat Tunisia's US Monastirien to top a 12-team tournament organized by FIBA and the NBA. VOA's Jackson Bugani has all the BAL action.
Zamalek advanced to the championship game with a convincing win over number 3 seed Petro de Luanda in Saturday's semi-final. Petro point guard Childe Dandao found John Pedro in the paint over Anas Mahamoud for 2 of his 12 points. Mahamoud had an easy jam at the other end of an assist from Islam Mohammed. Zamalek took the lead on a long 3 from Walter Hodge, who finished with a game-high 19 points and 10 assists. Dandao and Pedro connected again as the Angolan club stayed close early. Shooting guard Carlos Moraes had a crossover step-back 3 on his way to a team-high 18 points. It was more Hodge for Zamalek, hitting another 3 off a pass from Mahamoud, then finding Mahamoud behind the defense on a break. It was Mohamed to Diabate, to Michael Fakwade for the basket, and the fall as Zamalek extended its lead, with Omar Hussein driving to the hoop, and Mohamed picking off a lazy pass to finish with an easy 2 over Dandao. Mahamoud and Hodge had it going all day with a bounce pass in the paint for a layup, and Hodge all alone in the corner for 3. Diabate finished off with a highlight alley hoop to Mahamoud as the Egyptian club won by 18. In Saturday's other semi-final, Tunisia's Monastir advanced over Rwanda's Patriots Basketball Club. Tunisian Mekram Ben Ramdani had the magic working early with a behind-the-back pass to Atta Majok for the slam. Rwandan small forward Dieudonné Ndizeye hit a long 3 to extend an early lead. Majok blocked a Gassana Sano layup, and Oman Abada found the space for an easy jumper on his way to a game-high 18 points. Patriots' Wilson Shobozwa sank a 3 over Ramdani, but the Tunisian club pulled ahead on Marcus Crawford, setting up Majok at the rim again on Wayel Arkaje, delivering 3 of his 12 points. And Kenny Gasana hit as the shot clock expired. But the hometown Patriots were down 15 at the half. Monastir stayed out front on strong outside shooting from Arkaji and on sharp ball handling to find Majok under the rim. Patriots Seda Sagamba helped Brandon Costner to a long three. But it was all Monastir in the second half with Murad El Mabrouk behind the back to Romdani. Well-spaced passing by the Tunisian club gave Firas Riani 2 of his 13 points. And Monastir won by more than 40. In the tournament's third-place game Sunday, Petro de Luanda beat the Patriots 97-68. Vanda Wakim led all scorers with 21 points. Kenny Gasana had 18 for the Patriots, but Wakim and Petro hit 23-pointers on better than 45% shooting from outside. And the 12-time Angolan champions finished strong against the host Rwandans. In the BAL Championship, Zamalek point guard Walter Hodge picked up the poked away pass and found Mohab Abdelatif in the paint of the turnover. Ivorian point guard Moloku Diabate subbed up Nigerian power forward Michael Fakwade for 2 of his 15 points. It was Diabate again to Nigerian-American center Chinemelu Elonu, who had a double-double with 11 points and 12 rebounds. Makram Ben Romdani had 14 points and 10 rebounds for the Tunisian club, with Wayel Arkaji adding 13 points on 5 field goals. Tied at 42 coming up to a halftime, Hodge put Zamalek up at the intermission, creating off the dribble. The Egyptians came out in the second half with Anas Mahmoud to Hodge to Fakwadi for 3. Monastir's Omar Abada hit for 2 of his 13 points. Diabate answered with a long 3 on his way to 14 points, and Zamalek began to pull away. Diabate again to Elonu. Mohamed could feel it. Mo Hodge to finish off, as he was named the tournament's Hakim Olajuwon BAL Most Valuable Player, averaging more than 14 points and 5 assists a game. Founded more than 100 years ago, Zamalek is the first Basketball Africa League champion.
Thanks for watching Basketball Africa League action here on Africa 54. We have more about the tournament online at voanews.com and on radio on VOA's Sunny Side of Sports. Ahead of the U.S. Memorial Day weekend, President Joe Biden delivered a message of hope around domestic declining COVID-19 cases and increased vaccination rates. But the United States continues to be accused of not doing enough to fight the pandemic around the world and is under pressure to come up with a global COVID-19 strategy when it meets with other advanced economies at the G7 summit next month. White House correspondent Patsy Widakuswara has this report.
COVID shots are easy to come by in most parts of the U.S., including the subway station in New York. Vaccination rates have also been boosted by creative incentives, including state lotteries. This 22-year-old from Ohio won $1 million just for getting her jab.
I'm probably going to invest most of it.
On Friday, President Joe Biden celebrated the country's fight against COVID.
Now, 51% of American adults have been fully vaccinated. 75% of seniors fully vaccinated.
But his administration is under pressure to do more globally, including to shore up commitments from the world's leading economies at the G7 summit in June.
It's going to be pretty much the first moment at this stage in the pandemic, when rich countries are beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel, to show unequivocally that rich countries are going to stand up and help put this pandemic out globally. If they don't make that statement at the G7, I think they've missed a huge opportunity, and I'm not sure what the future holds.
Global pandemic recovery will be a focus at the G7. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told VOA on board Air Force One this week.
What is happening now behind the scenes is that there is an internal policy process to determine how we can do that in an equitable and transparent way. I know you're all eager to know where they're going and what our process will be. We certainly understand that. We hope to have more soon.
The most immediate concern is addressing the global vaccine inequity. United Nations agencies have noted that by the end of June, COVAX, the UN mechanism to distribute vaccines to middle and lower income countries, will face a shortfall of 190 million doses. This is partly due to delivery delays from the Serum Institute of India as the country struggles to address its COVID surge. The world must also get ready for the next health crisis.
The next pandemic is either right around the corner in terms of decades, years, months, weeks, days. So if we don't iron out a process for every single notch in the chain up until and including vaccination right now, we're going to be caught flat-footed the next time this happens.
Earlier this week at the World Health Organization, countries including the U.S. delayed until November negotiations to create an international pandemic treaty. Proposed by the European Union, the Global Framework Convention on Pandemic Preparedness and Response seeks to ensure countries' political commitment to fighting future pandemics. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
Around the world, vaccine hesitancy threatens to prolong the pandemic. VOA Steve Baragona explains.
When polling firm Gallup asked Czechs whether they would get vaccinated against COVID-19, 53% said no. In Senegal, 55% said no. And in Jordan, 62%. In most of the countries Gallup surveyed, the proportion of people who said they would be vaccinated was below 70%. That's the lowest percentage of the population that scientists think needs to have immunity in order to stop the virus from spreading. It's a state called herd immunity, where the virus has a hard time finding new people to infect. Vaccination is the safest way to get there. Where vaccine hesitancy is highest, it may be about more than just the COVID-19 vaccine itself.
I think the number one thing we have seen from our work is essentially trust in government. That seems to be a strong predictor with regards to intention to get a vaccine.
Take countries such as Ukraine, Gabon, and Lebanon. In a 2018 Wellcome survey, most people there said they did not trust their government. Those countries also have majorities who said they will not take the COVID-19 vaccine. In all, Gallup found 20 countries where more than half the population said they won't take the vaccine. 10 of them are in Eastern Europe. That partly reflects people's attitudes there towards vaccines in general. In that 2018 Wellcome survey, only half of Eastern Europeans considered vaccines safe. That's the lowest rate in the world. These high rates of hesitancy are a warning for health officials, but they do change. When Gallup polled Americans last September, 50% said they would not get vaccinated, but that number fell to 26% by March.
It's a small proportion of the population here in the United States that is fundamentally and philosophically opposed to vaccines. So it's a very small proportion. We then have a good chunk of the population that's pro-vax, but the majority of people in the United States are what we would call this movable middle, i.e. they're ambivalent, and they just need a nudge in the right direction.
One of the biggest nudges is seeing other people get vaccinated. Take this Kaiser Family Foundation poll. In December, when COVID-19 vaccines first arrived, more people said they would wait and see than those who said they would get the shot as soon as possible. From December to April, as more people got vaccinated, the wait and see group shrank from 39% to 15%. But getting hardcore skeptics on board is not easy. It has to be done on a local level, Lemaye said, sometimes person to person.
It has to be from individuals that people trust. This has to be community-based leaders, for example. Religious leaders are a key part of this solution. Other community influencers at the community level are really, really important here. It is a lot of hard work. It's not something that's going to be done very quickly and very easily.
That was VOA Steve Baragona with that report. From mammoth cash prizes to free perks, states and businesses in America are finding all kinds of ways to encourage residents to get vaccinated against COVID-19. More with VOA correspondent Maria Diallo.
California Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled a massive pot of money to encourage vaccinations. The $116 million program features gift cards and big cash prizes.
On Friday, June 11th, the state of California will be conducting a drawing. Everybody that has been vaccinated in the state of California will have their name put into this drawing. They are all eligible, And all of those of you before those dates that get vaccinated, I hope you're paying attention. You get the $50 incentive card, and you have a chance to be in a drawing where we will be pulling the names of 15 individuals that will receive $50,000 cash prizes.
The state estimates 12 million eligible Californians have not yet been vaccinated ahead of a planned reopening June 15 that also coincides with big winnings for lucky residents.
But the vast majority of Californians eligible that have received a first dose, those that seek to get a first dose before June 15th, $15 million that night will be distributed, $1.5 million prizes for 10 individuals.
From the west to the east coast, where in New York City, some businesses are offering free perks to people who show proof of vaccination.
We're juniors in Brooklyn, New York. I came for my free cheesecake because I got vaccinated.
She'll be sharing with a special person.
This little one right here.
Alan Rosen, owner of Junior's Restaurant, says he's doing his part to promote public health.
Because the sooner everyone gets vaccinated, the sooner we get back to normal.
At the Krispy Kreme donut shop in Times Square, you flash your Vax card and get a free donut.
I tell them I'm going for my daily vaccine donut. Yeah. I don't want to say this is one of the reasons I got vaccinated, because it wasn't, but it's definitely a plus.
As the nation emerges from months of pandemic restrictions, other businesses are also offering freebies for those who show vaccination cards. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
An investigative report this year accused the Burkina Faso representative of Swiss-American tobacco giant Philip Morris of funding terrorism through tobacco smuggling, despite a UN report also calling him a smuggler. Apollinaire Compaoré has rejected the findings in an exclusive interview for VOA with reporter Henry Wilkins in Ouagadougou.
Selling cigarettes to smugglers who pay jihadists to protect the convoys. That's the accusation levelled against the Burkina Faso representative of Philip Morris International by the Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP. In a February report, the Sarajevo-based group cites officials, rivals and former colleagues of Apollinaire Compaoré who accuse him of funding terrorism through smuggling into Mali, Niger, Nigeria and Libya. It also accuses Burkina Faso authorities and the Swiss-American tobacco giant of being complicit in a vast smuggling operation centred around a warehouse in the northern town of Marcoy.
Indeed, we think Philip Morris was aware of what he was doing. There's also clear indications that parts of the Burkinabe state, including customs, were involved in the warehouse at Marcoya. In fact, the customs officer we interviewed characterized it as a mafia at the top of the state.
Burkina Faso's customs was not available to comment on the accusations against the agency and Compaoré, who also owns a major bank and telecoms company. In a written response, Philip Morris said there is no evidence of wrongdoing by the company and no information indicating their products shipped to Burkina Faso were smuggled into neighbouring countries. But a 2019 UN report also found that a company owned by Compaoré supplied regional smugglers, says one of the report's authors.
He knowingly supplies those that traffic, and he must be aware of this because there's no legal market for those cigarettes once he brings it to northern Burkina Faso.
In an exclusive interview for VOA, Compaoré refutes all these accusations.
Yes, the United Nations lied, and even those who worked on the report for them are no longer employed by them.
One of the richest men in Burkina Faso, Compaoré also dismissed claims in the OCCRP report that two of his companies have never paid taxes.
Are they the Director of General Taxes? They are all lying to harm me. They are lies.
When asked if there is any evidence of Compaoré being involved in cigarette smuggling, a Burkina Faso tax department official cited confidentiality laws.
But what I can say is that the tax authorities are very rigorous. We do not allow this type of action to go unpunished.
Whether or not authorities take action, the allegation that cigarette smuggling supports Sahel terrorism is not expected to go away anytime soon. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso.
According to the Adobe Digital Economy Index, commerce worldwide reached $876 billion in the first quarter of 2021. And even as stores begin reopening, consumers are continuing to do more shopping online. Maxim Moskalkov has the story.
According to the Adobe Digital Economy Index, the global e-commerce market has grown by 40% since the beginning of 2021. The index marks the first time Adobe has provided transaction data from more than 80 countries around the world. And the results underscore growing consumer confidence as more Americans get vaccinated.
Global e-commerce is going to be nearly $1 trillion in the first quarter of 2021. And that's nearly 40% bigger than it was a year ago when we were early on in the pandemic, and still significantly up on 2019.
Statistics show that e-commerce in the US got a huge boost on March 11, 2021, when President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act. Online shopping brought in $8 billion in just 20 days between March 11th and March 31st. But experts say this growth isn't just the result of the COVID pandemic.
And even as COVID hopefully begins to abate, and even as vaccines become available, people are continuing to transact in the online world for a lot of the staples that they had bought previously in the offline world. So, for instance, groceries.
I think there have been some clear and long-range changes in shopping behavior and shopping patterns that were triggered by COVID, and I think a lot of those will stick around.
Another novelty that the pandemic has brought to e-commerce is new ways to pay for goods.
We've seen a tripling in what we call buy now, pay later behavior. And we attribute this in part to a broader trend in the US of people rethinking their credit and their borrowing and using it very differently. We've seen a reduction in personal borrowing. We've seen credit card debt levels come down over the course of COVID. And this option offers a different way to pay that has either no or different implications for people's credit.
If e-commerce continues to grow at the pace it has shown in the last year, it will hit $4.2 trillion by the end of 2021, a huge jump from 2019. Maxim Moskalko for VOA News, Washington.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, we thank you for watching.